Okay, everybody has an agenda for today's work session, June 18th, 2024. First item on the agenda is staffing updates. Mr. Schneider, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I do, actually, some good stuff to report. The loose principal position, and I think last Friday I sent out our time frame, the selection committee and information on that. And we are still trying to stick to that. We'll select candidates this Friday, set up interviews the first of next week, do background reference checks, and then have a recommendation for the board for the July meeting. I can tell you we have 13 applicants at this time.
13?
13 for that position. 4 or 5 that actually have principals experience. Another 2 or 3 that have been assistant principals. And then we have some that are just looking for their first principal's job. But, so yeah, super excited about the pool we have for that. The assistant principal at the high school, last night, Mr. Schroman was hired as the principal at Brown County. I did get his resignation letter this morning. We have not posted it because we do, we want to talk about that a little bit later under staffing as what some of the options might be with that position. Food and nutrition director, this is some really good news. I now have 2 applicants. 2 applicants that have experience, knowledge, either or. I think we do a really good job. So we're going to try to schedule those interviews either the end of this week or the first of next week, with the goal again to have you a recommendation by July. And then we have a teaching position at Rockport. I'm actually meeting with Reagan Lashley Thursday to discuss that, to see if that's the position she wants to fill. So again, we hope to have a recommendation by the July board meeting, that I need to speak with her, see where she wants to go. Special education teacher at Luce, again, we'll fill that as soon as possible. And again, Reagan does have a special ed license, so if she wants to take over that position, she could. So that's what I'm gonna talk to her about Thursday is, you know, where do you wanna be? Give her the opportunity, because we are gonna be down 1 teacher at Luce next year due to numbers. Our fax teacher at the middle high school, this position's been posted for at least a week, maybe going on 2. We have 0 applicants at this time. I did speak with Mr. French. He is very interested in making this a business position. That would qualify with the state requirements. We have to have 2 of the 4 areas covered. And he also made the comment that business would probably be a much more realistic pathway for more students than culinary.
So we haven't interviewed anybody for that position?
No.
Period?
No, we don't have any applicants.
Okay.
And we have had no applicants. And fax teachers are hard to find. They're difficult to find. Business teacher at the high school, we do have an applicant, at least 1, for that position. Super excited about that. And the choir teaching position, and this position was just posted due to Mr. Vincent's resignation just last week. So I know some people are trying to find some people that might be interested in good fits for that position. So certified staff, that's where we stand here in the middle of June. So feel pretty good about most of it. That fax teacher, we knew when we got that resignation, retirement, that was gonna be a tough one to fill, especially to fill it with someone that has culinary experience as well. So probably make a decision on that here in the next couple days as to what direction we wanna go, and I'll include Scott and, Lori on those conversations, and what that might look like, for sure. So, and then we do have some support staff positions that are open, but that's pretty typical for this time of the year. We are interviewing 2 excellent candidates for the treasurer's position here at the high school, cause I'm sure Missy's tired of doing 2 jobs. But 2, again, excellent candidates, either or would do a great job, so we're gonna interview them, Thursday, and, again, hope to have a recommendation for you at the July meeting. So, and then there's a couple other positions, some custodial positions, maybe even a teacher's aide position, but again, those.
For that treasurer position, going back to Rockport, that we accepted the resignation on that individual. Should we do something as a board to make that legal, rather than just move a person into that position? And should there be postings and those type of things before that's done?
I mean, I think she needs to submit a letter resigning, because she was approved at a board meeting. And then.
But she resigned from the other position that she was in.
Right, so that position.
So that position, do you have to post that and interview again, or what's that process look like?
Yeah, I think you do. You know, I know I did talk to Mr. Hunt. I mean, he really wants to have her back, and she's a good employee, so I'm pretty sure she'll be his selection, but yeah.
I just think that's the right thing to do.
Right, yep. Yeah, so, and that's for the, health aide position at Rockport. And she was gonna move to the treasurer's position here, but, decided now is not the time to make that commitment, cause that job does require more time. It requires some work over Christmas break, spring break, when you need to write checks for game officials. If we host girls sectional, anything over breaks, then money has to be counted and deposited, so I mean, I understand it, but, yeah, but other than that, I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape. Shelley's in, I won't say great shape, but we've got all the routes covered. And I know she's still working on trying to get some more substitutes on the list for drivers, but at this point in time, we have all the routes covered. So that's a big plus from where we were last year at this time, as we started the year too short, so.
And staffing in the kitchen is, good besides the nutrition director?
I think so, and I have to say I think so because, I would get conflicting reports. When I talked to Maggie, staffing was fine. When I talked to people in the kitchen, well, we were one short most of the year. So, you know, I think it'll be, like I said, I think we got 2 great candidates, and I think the, environment, the working environment in the kitchens will improve. I really do. As well as some other areas, so, I mean, I think that will be, and we'll have someone that will, like I said, both these people have experience, and again, the food and nutrition budget is self-supporting, so they don't, you know, we're not using tax dollars to support it, so, that's important to have someone that can manage that, and make that work, so.
Do you have on your list there to talk about the ESRA positions and the position, if we look at that funding, you read some of the literature, some of that funding has stopped and gone away. What positions do we have that are ESRA? What positions are not gonna be funded? What positions are going away? What positions, can you go over that
Yeah.
with us?
Yeah, I can. Yes, ESSER funding is technically over.
Okay.
I mean, you can pay it out through September, the end of September. You can pay through the end of September and you can write checks until the end of December, for approved ESSER budget items. So basically, whatever we start the school year with,
How many positions is that now?
well,
If we went by the last day of school?
that depends. You have to understand, when the ESSER money came on, we supplanted existing positions with ESSER money. So we started paying for these positions out of ESSER instead of the education fund. So that's the reason why you saw us gain around $1 million last year in the education fund.
Right.
Is because that portion of that was being supplanted by ESSER funds.
So what's,
which
do you have those, can you go over those, or is that something that you have to get back with us on?
I have to get back to you with those, because that's gonna require Melissa to come in. Melissa will have to come in and give us a full list of who's on there and who's not.
Okay.
But, yeah. Like I say, and the numbers, I mean.
I'd like to
so-
have that before school starts, so we know that
Sure.
if there's positions that aren't gonna be funded, they need to know that, and if there's others, then we as a board need to make the decisions on that hiring versus, just telling someone, yeah, you got the position out of a budget that we haven't
Right.
approved.
And we did send out letters, again, not all the staff, because the people that were already here and were just paid out of ESSER, we have every intention of bringing them back. I mean, we're not gonna, but there were people that got letters stating that their position was an ESSER created position and it would end at the end of the 2023-2024 school year. So.
So there's nobody gonna be starting in,
No one's gonna be starting in
August,
September, in
that-
August, and then being, riffed or let go at the end of September.
Okay.
No, we're not gonna do that. I don't feel that would be
I agree.
fair.
I think as
Yeah.
a board, we need to know what those
Yeah.
numbers look like before, and who's staying and who's in those positions, and how we're gonna fund it.
Yep, I agree.
It was easy to, when it was ESSER dollars, to say, sure, let's put that money to that person, but now that we're talking about our pocketbook, we have to be good stewards of our money.
Yeah, and, it was, I mean, there's no doubt, it's been a real plus. And the last, or not last, if you have questions, obviously we can stay on it, but, the next staffing update, cause this is long-term, and maybe this is more facilities, but it impacts everything. And I just wanna kinda give the board an update of the meeting we had yesterday with the AP leadership team. In attendance were County Commissioners Jim Seiler and Heather Grease, County Council members Mr. Benton and Mr. Greilick, County Attorney Josh Claiborne, Mayor Kirkpatrick, Representative Bartles, myself, and the leadership team from AEP. The AEP leadership team is currently exploring all options to keep the power generating site at Rockport open. They did confirm that both of the coal-fired units will be closed no later than December 31st, 2028. So that's a done deal. They are almost certain Unit 1 will stay online right up to December 31, 2028. Unit 2 may or may not stay online until December 31st, 2028. That will depend upon the profitability of said unit. The leadership team discussed the built-in advantages of keeping the Rockport site open. Those include access to 2 key distribution lines that run the full distance north to south of the state of Indiana. One on the east side, one on the west side of Indiana. They discussed that investment is substantial. In other words, if you had to
Start from scratch?
Start from scratch, you're looking at billions of dollars. They also discussed the advantage of having plenty of space at their current site. They have over 4,500 acres, having access to the river and having access to water from the river. As I said, AEP is considering several options that include natural gas, solar, nuclear, and wind. They did seem to eliminate wind due to our location. They said the data doesn't support wind as a feasible option at this time. They also indicated that the new generating plant may, most likely, contain two sources, such as natural gas and solar, nuclear and solar. They did say it's less likely that they will pair natural gas with nuclear, but would not rule it out.
Did they give you a time frame? Cause the person with AEP that I spoke to in West Virginia said to take a plant like that and make it nuclear, you're talking about a 5-year zero production.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, you would be stagnant with no tax dollars coming in.
Yeah.
And then did they mention anything about personnel? Cause you know, you can run a power plant, but those people that have that power plant technology degree, they're already looking. People are already leaving AEP to go elsewhere. Did they talk about that?
Not specifically that. They did talk about timeframes. I'll get to that.
Okay.
The team did describe in detail what each of these options might look like, how long the construction process might take, and 5 years for nuclear was a number that was mentioned. AEP can significantly reduce this time if the county commissioners are agreeable to entering into an agreement which basically says they will support AEPs. I'm just giving you common language here, okay? If they're agreeable to enter into an agreement which basically says they will support AEP's proposal to establish the best option of the 4 that were discussed for generating power. There was a lot of discussion. Mr. Claiborne, who, that's the first time I ever met him, he's sharp. The county's got the right guy in charge. But Commissioner Seiler, Commissioner Grease, and both county council members voiced support for this request. At the end of the meeting, the AEP leadership team and Mr. Claiborne agreed to begin preliminary work on language for an agreement. While no hard deadline has been set, both parties indicated support for getting this done sometime this fall, and at the latest, the end of 2024. This agreement would allow AEP to immediately begin working, and they're doing a big study, what's gonna be the most economically advantageous to them going forward. And they did say they're looking 20 years down the road. So that's, so once they get their studies done and the higher ups decide this is what it's gonna be, then they would begin working on RFPs for a new power plant. So, I left the meeting, a great deal more optimistic than I did when I walked in. I felt that the tone of the meeting was very positive, and AP was very clear. They will build another power generating site in the coming years. They also strongly voiced their desire to build that new generating plant at the Rockport site due to the built-in advantages that exist at that site that we discussed earlier. I felt both commissioners and both county council members voiced support for the site to remain at Rockport. Attorney Claiborne has a wealth of experience working with power plants, EPA red tape, and all that, and shared those experiences with the group and the AEP leadership team. Representative Bartles, I don't think I mentioned. Bartels.
Yeah.
Was there. I don't know if I mentioned him earlier. But voiced his strong support for AEP to build a new power generating site to stay at Rockport, or if that can't happen, he said at least build it in Indiana. We did have a discussion about the impact of AEP closing for property taxes and how that would impact the county, schools, and property owners. I did invite the commissioners and the county council members, and anyone else, to come to our meeting, our work session, once the policy analytics folks have completed their study of property taxes and assessed value. And they all nodded their head and said that they would like to be part of that. I feel this is a great way for us to educate them on how school finances work. During the discussion, the AP leadership team, according to Matt's point, also discussed the possibility that there could be a 2, 3, 4-year period where no power would be generated, which means their AV would drop substantially. Not completely, because they're still gonna be assessed for the 4,500 acres and the assets they have on site, but it would be substantially reduced. And while this wouldn't be great, it's a much better option than losing that AV forever. The AP leadership team has promised they will keep this group informed and, in their own words, will be in constant communication with you as we move into the fall and discuss the transition more holistically. You know they would say that because I don't use words like holistically. But bottom line, and again, nothing's guaranteed. But again, I got a real good feeling, one, from the AEP people, that if they had their choices where they're gonna build this thing, it would be at Rockport. But I think part of that was them wanting to know how much the community was gonna support them. And I know Mayor Kirkpatrick made comments about working together to make sure we inform all of our county residents what is being proposed, what are the benefits of them staying, and what the challenges are gonna be if they decide to go somewhere else. So, a good meeting, and obviously, like I said, if we have to go 2, 3, 4 years, with a lower assessed value, that is something we can plan for, that is something we can work through.
There's a lot of unknowns in that though. You got, with nuclear, you've got, the tax base here in South Spencer would say, well, yeah, absolutely, whatever it takes to get us back on track. But you got people who live in the county that, nuclear is not a word that a lot of people like. So the environmental impact studies and all the things with environmental groups that are gonna be, you're talking about building a new facility, so you're starting from the ground level up. So there's a lot of unknowns in those different things that aren't listed in that list that you're talking about there that are, hold your breath and hope things roll the way that they need to roll.
And they held a long conversation, and I didn't take good notes during this. But what they're proposing nuclear would not be 3 Mile Island, where you have to run water to cool the core. This is fairly new.
But you have to educate the community, because when they hear nuclear, the first thing they think of is Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, stuff like that.
Right, absolutely, and they discussed that. They said that because of this technology and how it works, there's no danger that the core is ever gonna melt down, because it never gets to that point. I don't know what that means, I'm just telling you that's what their main guru was telling us. And I wish I'd have wrote down what it's called, but it's like a series of nuclear instead of one big. So.
Same way with the word solar.
Yeah.
Won't get into
well,
that.
And they talked about.
Won't get into that today.
They talked about solar too. No, they did, because I could sense that they want to do solar. They want to do part solar. Because it's too easy. It's just too easy. Now, the reason they have to pair it with either natural gas or nuclear is because it's dependent, right? If the sun's not out, you're not generating power. So that is why I think they've already made the decision. They're gonna have two sources.
4,500
and-
acres, it tells you there.
Huh?
They own 4,500 acres, you said?
Yes, yeah, so I'm just telling you, I got the impression that solar is gonna be part of this. Now, they may disagree with that, but just when they talk, you could tell they've thought.
Butting up against Grandview. We'll see how that goes.
Right, George?
So,
this group that you met with, are they anticipating to have another meeting anytime soon, or is it?
yes, I do, and I believe the gentleman when he says they're gonna be in constant communication, because I think they want to, and Mayor Kirkpatrick spoke to this, about building community support, and putting some things together where, you don't get the knee-jerk reactions, let them make up their mind, but make sure they make it up after they've been informed of what is actually gonna happen. So, yeah, I think they will, I do. Like I said, it was a good meeting. And I walked out of there a whole lot more optimistic than I was walking in. Again, it doesn't mean anything's set in stone or anything's, but, they're gonna make every effort to, and that's what he said. He goes, I promise you, we're building another power plant. He goes, that's what we do. We generate power. They spent probably a good 20 minutes talking about the power grid and how the demand, especially since Indiana's got these two new AI, I guess we got, yes. So he said those are just gonna eat energy.
What did you just say?
Data center?
Data centers,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, they freeze your
I didn't hear what you
fence
said.
and you walk in, so they can put the terrorists are coming in and all that.
Yeah.
stuff.
So they said those things just eat energy. And they did a history thing where, the need for energy was pretty stagnant. We had a time where it was raising rapidly and then so from their standpoint, positivity is they expect the demand to get back on this trajectory as opposed to a flat trajectory. So I think they see this as a great opportunity, and they don't wanna lose out on it, so we shall see. But yeah, I do think they'll stay in close connectivity with us, and I think the big thing now will be the lawyers to get together and come up with some kind of language that basically shows that the county's gonna support their efforts, and I think that's gonna go a long way if we can get that done, so.
Okay, anything else? for-
Questions?
Do we need to talk about like possible on our assistant principal, how we wanna go with that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Is that something we need to keep the same, or are we open to, we talked about ESSER funds a little bit and funding being an
Sure.
issue, if that's an opportunity
I-
for us or not.
Yes, and I talked with Lori some this morning, she wanted to be here, but she had some previous commitments. I didn't tell her about it until Tuesday morning, till this morning, because I wanted to make sure Steve's thing was, I wasn't gonna put something out there. So it was very late notice when I talked to her, but she's very open. And I said, I don't know. I said, I think it would not be wise for us not to look at what options we might have, because we have a high school of 350 kids. A full-time assistant principal is, in my opinion, a luxury. So.
What's that number look like if you take out the number of students that are going to Evansville to the tech center and doing the different things? That number over the course of a day is actually a lot less than that number that you're reading, isn't it?
Well, they're half a day.
Right.
Those kids are in half-day programs, so it's probably, I mean, we probably 30 kids tech, I mean, that's probably high.
Like 30 in the morning and 30 in the afternoon?
No,
so-
total,
Okay.
morning and afternoon. I just signed off on the sheet, it was probably,
You're still talking 10% of your school gone half the day.
yeah,
I mean,
so,
with those
yeah.
numbers there out, you're talking about a school about the same size as Rockport Elementary.
although, I mean, that's true, but elementary is different than high school.
It is, but you also got Mr. Martin, Mrs. Wilhelmus, you know, there's a lot more staff there at high
Right.
school level than what you have at a.
There
elementary.
is, there's also a lot more state reporting.
There is.
There's a lot more graduation requirements, we're getting ready to have a new diploma.
Cause I know at least 4 of us on the board didn't have an assistant principal when we were in this building and had twice as many kiddos.
So I
Can't speak for Tyler, I don't know how.
I was thinking about that this morning or yesterday, and I couldn't remember if I did starting out or not. I mean, it's on
Yeah, so I mean, it's,
12 years now,
Right.
but.
you know, I think we need to have the discussion. And like I said, you know, we just hired an athletic director that has an administrator's license. So, and I know in the past, South Spencer's done an assistant principal athletic director combination. I think depending upon the individual, that works or doesn't work.
Agreed.
So, and I've not said anything to Mr. Martin about that as a possibility. He is one of the 13 candidates for the loose job. So we've got a lot of moving parts right now. But I do think we could look at that. Possibly, assistant principal career coach position, might be something to consider with the new diploma track, and the career pathways that are gonna be such a big part of that. And there may be other options out there. Those were just 2 things that I thought of. Then there's the option of staying status quo. And then there's the option of not filling the position. I'd really have to study that. Just to be honest, because then you're putting a lot more supervision work on people. I mean, you'd have to look at some other possibilities. You know, I thought about, okay, if you do an assistant principal AD, there could be a possibility we go back to a middle school.
That's what I was thinking.
And,
That'd be a lot.
cause that
Is
could, that could work with one of the, if we don't do facts and put a business teacher in there, we may have open positions where, that would be a viable option.
What's the role of that assistant principal in your mind? If you were gonna list the top 2 or 3 roles of that position.
Typically, discipline.
Is there a way, is that trackable, measurable? Is there something that you can get back to the board and tell us how many disciplinary events, a month, a week, or a year that position has handled? I mean, if it's one of those situations where, you know, you have a bunch, that's
Right.
understandable, but if you're talking about
Right.
2 or 3 a week.
Sure. I think I can get that data
Okay.
from Harmony.
Okay, I'd like to see
As
that.
long as was put in Harmony. You know, the teachers send a kid to the office and they enter it. I think Mr. Schulman would have entered it, but
So then
but
that should be a record, okay.
I can look at that. You know,
So when you mentioned a career coach, is that similar to what Monica did when we
Yes.
had that grant?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. And again, that would, I'm not sure that's a great fit, because that really, in my opinion, that needs to be somebody from the community that can go out and make those connections, so we can set up internships for kids, we can get, I'm just spitballing, I'm not saying these are all good ideas, I'm just saying, you look at that. The other big part, Matt, besides discipline, is just evaluations, help with evaluations, because that is, that's a lot. So if you, and I think Jim and Steve, I think they pretty much split them up 50-50. So you're gonna put all that on one person if you completely eliminate the position.
Well, I know that Steve had reached out to 2 of the schools and asked to help do their evaluations.
Right.
So obviously he had time available, if you're willing to go outside of your building and do other evaluations, so that's another reason why I just wanna make sure that we're good stewards of our money and doing what's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, and you guys wanna sleep on it, I mean, this is not something we're gonna do tomorrow, obviously. And I laid out the loose timeline. I mean, we're gonna select candidates this Friday, and then schedule interviews first, next week, and, yeah. And then hopefully, by the end of the week, we'll be able to come back together as a committee and, determine who the recommendation is gonna be for the July board meeting. So that will play into some of this. My problem is I don't know, given that I just got his resignation yesterday, if I can have it ready for July 8th. So I may need a special meeting on the 15th or 17th or 18th, somewhere in the middle of July. But we really need to get that, because, I mean, they're gonna come back to work the 24th or 25th. So, we don't, you know, we're running out of summer, to get these positions filled.
So the admin is coming in to the buildings to work the 24th or the 25th?
Yes, somewhere, one of those, it's somewhere that week, the 20th through the 27th. So, good news is, if we do fill it with, just an AP or an AP slash, again, I think we've got some outstanding candidates. Some people that applied for the principal's job that didn't have experience, were strong, would be really strong AP candidates. So, I think we'll have we'll have another good pool to select from, but I do think we ought to take some time to think about it. If you've got ideas,
Is this gonna be posted recent, or like
yes.
soon, or as just a?
We kinda have to decide what it's
Right.
gonna look like, but yeah, I wanna get it posted sooner rather than later, because again, I wanna try and get it done that week of the 15th through the 19th, get them named. So, and I, look at your
So
calendars.
possibility that first week of July, you're thinking have a special meeting to accept his resignation? So that you can post it, is that what you're looking at?
No,
Cause you can't do anything with it until we accept his resignation, can you?
I don't know how you guys work. At Warwick, I could. If I accepted the resignation and it was a report to the board, but I don't know how you guys, I don't know how that works. If that's the case, if we have to wait until the 8th.
Well, that's why I was just saying that there's a way to have a special session. You're talking about a special meeting, you're talking about 30-second meeting, come in and make a motion, approve it and be done.
The recommendation.
You just have to have 48 hours and post.
Well,
So-
I mean, if that's,
But I'm just,
yeah, but no, I was talking that, I was talking a special meeting the week of,
The 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th.
yeah, the week of the 15th through the 19th to name the assistant principal. So if we need to do a special meeting to get that to the point where we can post it,
I think you need to run it by Mr. Foster and see what
I will
our
do that.
policies and procedures say.
I will do that.
If it allows us that flexibility, then I don't mind utilizing it, but at the same point in time, I wanna follow the rules.
Right, yeah, and I mean, it's not posted, so.
Okay, so with that being said, if we are going to have a special meeting, once you talk to Mr. Foster, I'm assuming the special meeting will happen one day next week.
I'm out next week, I'm in Florida. teaching a class in Florida, so next week I won't be available.
Okay. So we could still do it the following week.
Or if you wanna do it without me, I mean, you're just talking about a 5-minute meeting, and it takes only 3 of you to do it.
That's true too.
I'm out the first week of July.
So if you need to have a special meeting next week, have it.
Okay. Let me do some checking and then I'll
Okay.
get with you and we can plot a plan or,
Okay.
okay? Okay. Anything else on assistant principal position? Okay.
I don't have any other questions regarding the staffing updates.
Alright. Facilities planning? Okay.
We got 20 minutes for our other meeting has to start.
Well,
FYI.
I did post it at 5 PM or at the conclusion of this meeting.
Okay.
So, and it's not open to the public, so.
Right.
Facilities planning, the biggest thing was that meeting with AEP, for sure. Dean and I are putting together, a facilities plan. Some of the things we're looking at, we've got some, HVAC units that are nearing end of life. We've got, proposed work at the baseball field, with new lights, and a new, basically building back there,
Like a locker room?
locker room, concession stand.
Bathrooms.
Yeah, it would just, bathrooms, it would be, we demolish what we got and we would put up new. That's something we're looking at here in the next, several years. We're also got to make a decision on our tennis courts. Dean's has talked to some people, to get some ideas of the cost of the tennis court, because sometime soon, probably in the next 2 years, 3 years, we are gonna have to repave, our tennis courts because, they're getting,
About every 5 years.
Yeah.
Is what we've been getting out of it.
yeah,
The cost the last time was about $400,000 for what we had done versus,
ooh, I did not know that.
yeah, it's
That's
the.
a complete repaving 5 years ago?
Yeah, talk to Dean. Dean was the one, we looked at in the renovation project, moving it out behind the school, and the price was, of course, 2 or 3 times that.
Yeah.
But you're still talking about the type of material and so forth, it was outlandish.
Yeah, well,
I'm thinking it was like 1.4 million to
Move it.
move it.
that's probably about right, it's over $1 million.
And that's
to
before
start
all
from
this
scratch.
inflation stuff, so I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So that's on there, like I said, the unit ventilators, we got some older units that are going on 24, 25 years. So at some point in time, they're gonna have to be replaced here in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're looking at that. And then we're also looking at paving, parking lots, especially the north parking lot here is starting to show some cracks. He's reached out, to Tim Metzger, and he said he would be happy to come by on a rainy day and give us a quote. Roofs are in pretty good shape, which is good, because those are expensive. We are looking at some doors at the middle school. You've got those oversized doors, and they're just hard to keep where they're supposed to be, because they're so heavy. But looking at possibly, replacing them at some time as well. But those are the items that we see in the next 3 to 5 years, major items that we need to take care of. Dean and I are also gonna look at those projects when we set our budget this summer, so that we can see where we're gonna be and we can afford to do them, all right? So, questions, comments on?
I do have a question. I know at one point, a couple years ago, regarding the ESSER funds, some of those ESSER funds can be used for, like, for example, AC units, something like that. Is there any ESSER funds that's unallocated that can be used toward that?
No.
No?
Not at this point in time, I mean, we still have some outstanding monies to spend in ESSERs, but, it wouldn't be enough
Enough
to
to-
touch that
okay.
kind of project. We are looking, we've got a cushion there, obviously, but what we'll do is we'll buy computers, we'll buy technology equipment, to make sure we spend every last penny. So we're basically doing the same thing. We're supplanting operations money with ESSER money. But as Matt pointed out, when that money's gone, it's gone. So it's not reoccurring funding, it's one-time money, so you have to be smart in how you use it. So, and like I said, we have supplanted, several staff positions with it, which I have no problem with. But that does create the ESSER cliff, and we're gonna have to work our way off that, so. But good question. Anything else facilities wise? Really pretty good shape, when you look. With, work at the football, softball, soccer, track, tennis courts needed, gym's in great shape, you know, we've got the bleachers in there, you know, so pretty good shape. All right, and then, last board comments, discussions,
Yeah, I would like to say something on that. I would like to encourage, the board moving forward, like, I would like to end the meeting more on a, like a positive note, whether it's, congratulating the retirements like I've done, or the accomplishment of our students that, the awards that they receive at the elementary schools, or the seniors that sign on to a college to play a sport, so forth. I think that would help motivate good atmosphere, not only amongst the board, but also amongst the community itself, if they see that and hear that. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are on that.
So I'll throw it out to you. You're the president. What's the purpose of the comments and concerns of the board?
I think that the board's comments, I mean, it can be, or the discussions, I think it can be one, to boost morale.
No, I'm talking about the governance portion of that. You understand that this is a board meeting, not a public meeting. This is the only time, Melissa, that we meet as a board for the entire month. This is the only communication time that we have as a board. So the opportunity to list concerns and discussion items of this board, that is our only time to do it. So if you're trying to say that we need to just be positive in a board meeting and flatter the audience, I'm in total disagreement of it, because that's not the purpose of it.
I'm not saying eliminated, voicing concerns, that's fine, that's what it's there for as well, but I would also like to do, positive comments as well.
But the comments need to be directed at the board. If you wanna say, dear board, I wanna personally say thank you for the band going to state, that's one thing, but to say, Mr. Such and Such in the audience, I wanna say thank you to you and the band people, that's not the intent of the board. All of the comments and conversations, you know, we've allowed it, and I've sat back and been fairly quiet about it, but when someone comes to the podium, that podium is to address the board. It's not to turn and face the audience and give them 3 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time they take to air their laundry to the community. That needs to be directed to us. And it's up to board leadership to instill that. So if you wanna minimize some of those things that get brought up, encourage more discussion amongst your board. So that's my comments.
Okay, so when, we first hired Allison as an attorney, she had given me this, and it's from the ISBA, it's Model of Board Governance.
Yep.
And it talked about, the agenda, and on board comments, it says, this is a point where board members may make any comments they choose. However, it is preferable that board members refrain from critical remarks of the evening's business and not use this time for grandstanding in front of the audience. This is an ideal place for extending compliments, sharing information from board development activities, or to suggest future items for board consideration. Members should refrain from introducing new motions or criticizing the board, individual board members, administrators, or staff.
I love it, but where that's quoted from is this book, and the paragraph or the chapter before it talks about a board that meets and talks and communicates and knows what everybody is thinking before a board meeting. That works. But when it goes rogue and it doesn't cover, and people come in and only one or two people knows what the decisions are of the other people on the board, and a board president doesn't reach out like we haven't had in the last 3 years, that doesn't work. It's in the next chapter after what you're reading that's actually quoted from. And this is by Jim Burgett, which was given
So what
this
do
to
you
us.
wanna do, have a board session, a work session every month? Like, what do you want? What do you expect?
Communicate.
Like, what does that look like for you? Like, that's what I don't know. What do you expect? Cause I don't know what you mean by, having work sessions, or I don't know what you mean. So you explain what you wanna see for communication.
I think before we come into a board meeting, the president should have reached out to everybody on the board and know their intent on voting, so that when the discussion comes up, that we know that we're gonna make a 5-0 nomination where we're not breaking any open door laws, but there's communication. So we don't do what we did 2 years ago out here in the Commons area, where we bring up a motion and we second it and 3 board members voted down no and embarrass the principal, the superintendent, the teacher over that department, and the hiring committee. But that's what we've done over the last 3 years. I'd be more than willing to share with any of you and any of the public all of my emails that I received from the board. And it's very minimal. I wanna thank Tyler, he's only been on here less than a year, but when he has a concern about a hire, he at least reached out to every board member and voiced his concern and got their input. So that's my issue. We haven't had that in the last 3.5 years.
The past 6 years, since I've been on the board president never reached out to me as a board member regarding my stance on a particular vote, or the agenda.
I'm not saying, hey, what's your vote? I'm gonna say, hey, we're looking at hiring this person. Here are some of the hires we've made. People in this room, I think it was in the last meeting, somebody motioned in a second and didn't even know what the salary expectations of the person we were hiring was. How foolish does that look to the public and to the other people on this board who wanna make a level-headed decision? The discussion needs to be follow-up, where the meeting, and you guys have done a great job of this over the last 3.5 years, is saying that the board meeting is the meeting of the board president and the administrator, Mr. Schneider, or before that, Dr. Rutherford, and before that, and so forth. You set the agenda. Some of these agendas we don't get until like 24 hours, work hours before a meeting. And there's no input in terms of making a level-headed decision. And you want us to make a decision based on something where we haven't had a chance to talk to the community or get engagement and involvement. You wanna engage the community. I'm not saying let's go and tell them who it is, but how many background checks and discussions have you made with people that we've hired to make sure that they're the proper person to hire? That's happened multiple times.
So whenever you say like the background checks, like, it's our job to make sure.
It's your job to make an informed decision, Melissa.
Correct,
It's not,
yes.
I think 2 or 3 times in the last 12 months, you said, well, I trust Mr. Schneider or the principal who's making the decision. It's ultimately their decision. That's not making a well-informed decision. That's saying I support my staff, and I do support my staff also. But I'm also gonna make a decision that a $16 million corporation a year should make.
Oh, 100% agree, because the past, administration hires that we've done, such as Ms. Herman, fabulous choice for that position. I'm glad that she's back at South Spencer. Number two, Mr. Trent Martin as the AD, fabulous selection. I supported that. I don't know what everybody else's support is on that. I do my background because, like Ms. Herman, she's a well-known community member. She's a well-known administrator. She's a well-known teacher, educator, leader. I don't understand.
So, Tyler,
Go ahead, go for it.
Don't take this personal.
Go for it.
I think Lori will do great in the position.
Mhm.
She has 0 secondary education teaching experience. She has 0 secondary administrative experience. She has no experience dealing with varsity sports in an athletic director position, where we're hiring a person with no experience who, look at his resume. He has experience being an activities director for the middle school, but he has 0 varsity sports experience. So when you say that they're excellent candidates, I'm not saying that they're not fine quality people. But in terms of you sitting up here and shouting to the rooftop that they're the absolute best people for those positions, it's kind of humorous, because their documentation doesn't back that up. Nothing against your mom. I think she'll do phenomenal at the job. Is she gonna come in with some speed bumps and some things that she's gonna have to battle through? Absolutely. And part of that's because she didn't have any experience at that, but she'll get it. But to make the statements that you've made have been absolutely hilarious.
That's your opinion, and
It
I
is.
respect
It
that,
is.
so.
Well, and so
but I
going
think-
back to the comments and concerns of the board, I'm not gonna allow you to stifle my speech, so I appreciate the kind words of saying, hey, let's be positive. But if it's my only time to talk to the board and get all of your ear, and that's the way that you wanna go forward, then we'll just continue doing that way. Appreciate it being brought up though.
Well, so first of all, anytime that I have not agreed or have voted no or voted against something, my president and my superintendent knew. Every
But the rest of
single
your
time.
board,
But why do I need to go and contact you and say, hey, I'm voting no on this?
Because
What do you think?
that's what consensus is and
Well,
getting opinion.
no,
And I
because
understand
I
if
don't-
it's the shock value of saying, hey, this is what we're gonna do when the meeting starts and it doesn't matter because we got 3 votes, then that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. That's your right.
I mean, that's just if I see something's wrong, I don't feel like I have to go get talked into something or talk somebody else into something.
I'm not saying
It's what
that
I
either.
feel
I'm not
and
saying
what I
that.
need to be doing.
Yeah, I'm not saying
But
that
as far
either.
as, even as far as other comments, a lot of what you bring up in an email that we already know. It's just.
You've not replied to
wanting-
it. Not a single person has ever replied to any of those emails.
Usually it's
So
Because
Jan-
they're
we
never
need to
really sent to
reply
us, they're usually sent to Mr. Schneider, and then we just see kind of what those are. But when you ask for information and he gives it to you, then you still have to bring it up in a public meeting when you get the answer, and so I don't understand.
So like which one? Because this is.
I don't know, there's been several of them where he is giving you the information that you wanted, or that you asked for, and then you still bring it up in a board comment
So then-
it's just reiterating what you already knew. I mean, and that's fine if that's what you wanna do, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up and make sure that we're all on the same page with what we should be discussing. Or even if you do have a concern, I think sometimes, it's like the shame on us, or I don't know why you can't just say, well, we need to have retirement parties for these people. And actually, Todd never he got recognized at a board meeting, was never given anything at a board meeting.
They had cake and punch, they gave out blankets to everybody. I've got it on video, Janet.
Okay.
If you wanna watch it, you can watch it, but you're not right. That's not accurate.
He doesn't remember it either, and I didn't remember it. I know the high school had something for him.
And they also got their lifetime pass to
He
all
never got
sporting
his
events.
lifetime pass. He had to ask for it 3 times before he got it. So they're not handed to them, but maybe the blanket thing was, So I don't know. I would just feel like if we're trying to put on and be respectful of each other, then I think the shame on us and the little, hashtags that you put for dissing our leadership, I think that's
The
not.
hashtags?
Mm-hmm.
On what?
Well, on your YouTube videos, cause I can't actually see those.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Got a fan?
Do what?
You got a fan?
I got a fan.
You got a fan?
Well, cause, I wanted to watch the one that I wasn't at, and
Oh.
so somebody told me to go to YouTube, and it was somebody in the room, and, I mean, that was just uncalled for, I feel like.
Oh,
But-
okay. Thank you.
Cause it's the only place I can go to watch the videos,
Why not?
cause you blocked me on Facebook.
There's that social media thing again.
I know, but luckily, starting January 1, that will all be taken care of, and we don't
No,
have
it
to do
doesn't.
that
June,
anymore.
June 25th.
Well, I know,
So
I
the
was
July
thinking,
board meeting, it'll.
I
By
know,
then,
but
so,
I
but we're
think-
looking at doing something sooner.
Yes.
Dean at the IASBO, found a system much more, a whole lot cheaper than what we were initially looking at.
Mhm.
So, we may roll that out sooner. That'll be part of the budget discussion. which-
Fantastic. That's a good
It
thing.
should be.
Transparency.
Absolutely. And we'll have the ability to live stream it, and then we will archive the meetings on the website, so people can also go back and view them anytime they want,
Yeah.
so.
Any other comments on regarding the agenda section of the board comments and discussions? George, you had your hand up. I don't know if,
I need to use the restroom.
any other comments or, regarding,
No.
okay. All right, then I would like to, adjourn the work session. Then we will take a 15-minute break. Everybody get their, goes to the restroom or whatever.